Hello, and welcome to the Sensibly Speaking podcast. This is Chris Shelton, the critical thinker at large.
Hello, my name is Skip Young. I just got finished watching Chris Shelton's new podcast video entitled, "Are We Being Manipulated to Hate Each Other?" And I wanted to make a few comments. I have met Chris. We know each other. We've spoken several times. I can't say that we're friends, but we're certainly not enemies. We have different political points of view. And I've sometimes commented on other videos that he's made. Chris, I hope that you will bear with me and allow me to make these edits to your video and interject my opinions. At the end of your video, you speak about bringing us all together through encouragement and communication and openness and honesty and patience and tolerance, and I hope you'll be patient and tolerant with me while I speak my mind and make comments about the points that you've made in your video.
I want to thank those of you who have started watching this just based on the title. This is not a Scientology-related podcast, so I know some chunk of my audience is not going to be interested, but I know some of you are. And for you guys, this is for you. This is about, this is not meant to be about politics. It's about people. And because I'm a people person and my channel is about people, and I am a very frustrated people right now, personally. I'm very frustrated about a number of things that have to do with politics. But the thing that I'm frustrated about is not the Dems or the Republicans or who's over who or what the latest tit for tat is. What I'm kind of frustrated about is all the things that I talk about on my channel and have been for years. You come out of a destructive cult situation, you go, oh my God, I can't believe I was so dumb. I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I fell for that. I make, that was my position 6 years ago. I come out of this situation. I come in fresh-eyed, bushy-tailed into the big wide world, right? Everything's going to be wonderful. Everything's going to be great. And it was kind of a big reset on my whole life. And you guys who follow me on this podcast, follow me on my channel, know that journey. You know that this has been quite a roller coaster ride over all these years, and I've detailed so much of it. But the lessons to be learned from this, as I often harp on, are applicable far more broadly to political spectrums, to cultural spectrums, to social issue situations. And my frustration comes in when I see myself and others falling for the same old song and dance, I guess you could say. And the reason this is important to me, and the reason that I'm taking this time on my platform this week to talk about this, is because I feel we are approaching, maybe rapidly, maybe not. It's impossible to tell when you're in the middle of the maelstrom or the chaos where it's going, right? You can't really tell. You're just trying to ride the whole thing out and hope for the best. And I'm talking, of course, politically right now. We are in the middle of an upcoming election cycle for the president. There's going to be Senate seats available. There's an opportunity to flip the Senate. There are lots and lots of things that are going to be happening over the next year and a half. And there's a lot of tension in this country right now in the United States. And the reason I'm concerned is because I think that this has gone way too far. I have certainly made it my business to talk about my political views on my channel. I'm not interested in being censored or being told to stay in my lane. I feel that I have good advice to give. I feel I have valuable life experience to share, and that's what I'm trying to do here. I have had arguments on social media. I have had arguments in person with people of opposite ideas to mine politically. Yet in real life, I maintain friendships with most people that I have these sort of rivalries or oppositional ideas about with. If I can throw a few more prepositions in there, under, over, and on top of. But on social media, not so much. Block, block, mute, mute, kill, kill, right? And some of the vitriol can really escalate. The temperature goes up really fast. And I feel this is brimming over into our real life too much. When there's violence, when there are calls for violence, when there are threats being made, when there are chants being done, when we're seeing what looks almost to me like lynch mob mentality on both sides. Okay, just to be super clear here, I'm talking just as much about Antifa as I'm talking about the Richard Spencer followers and the neo-Nazis. And, you got the extremists. They're the smallest part of the problem, but they are made into one of the biggest, most loudest parts by our media. And the media is something I'm having a real problem with right now. Just as a sort of exercise here, really, just as kind of an experiment, I really don't know where this show is going to go this week, but I'm sort of framing it all this way to start with to kind of give you an idea of what's on my mind. And I've invited a friend of mine who is more right-leaning than left. We're both sort of consider ourselves, I think, sort of not, I don't think either one of us would call ourselves centrists, but we kind of feel like we're not, we're neither one of us are out on these extreme ends, right? Both of us think Antifa and the Nazis are nuts. Right? And I think we're joined by the majority of people out there. But my friend, he lives in Arizona. He is a gun, advocate, that sort of thing. His name is Brandon Estrella. Welcome, Brandon, to my show.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So what I thought we might try to do here is engage in some civil discourse, lead by example and all that. But let's talk not about, or maybe we'll get into some of the niceties or the single issues that are on our minds about things from the left and from the right. But what I'm more concerned about is the manipulation, the emotional manipulation, the data manipulation, information control, if we're going to put it into cult terms, that's kind of being perpetuated, I think, on all of us. And Brandon, maybe you could talk about this from your perspective, as some kind of inside information on what's going on down there. And it's radically different from what is being portrayed in the media on both the left and the right. Both sides, both the media on this are getting it wrong both ways. What's your framing of this whole thing?
A lot of times when we talk about stuff like Antifa or AOC, we say the left, but that is not the left. I don't see Nancy Pelosi condemning a lot of the things that's going on. I don't see Chuck Schumer and the moderates on both sides. And I don't think that's expressed enough, because when that stuff happens, you get a lot of people like, oh, you mean all the left? It's like, no, I don't mean all the left. I don't mean all the right either. So what's been happening with the border situation is that a lot of these people are taking a couple of breadcrumbs and then they're magnifying it into this epic proportion. To where you have people on one side saying that there's, the only problem we have down there is the abuse from the evil card-carrying members of the Aryan Brotherhood Border Patrol. And then we have, on Hannity, he's saying that, they're trying to destroy the border and open and let everybody in. And there's some truth to both sides of what these people are saying, but they're taking a small bit of truth and they're blowing it up to institute panic, because panic brings ratings. And it's really disingenuous. And I've been completely just pissed with the media. They know what they're doing. They know that they're getting the American people all riled up and pissed off on both sides. And they don't do anything to stop it. It's almost like, they'd rather care about the ratings than the actual, sanity of this country. And there's a boiling point, and there's only so much somebody can take. And I think we're starting to see that boiling point now. There was an article that came out in the New York Times not too long ago that said, "Would we ever have another civil war again?" And they said that, if you were to ask them about 10 years ago, no, of course not. But now they're not so sure. It's not going to be like anything, we're not going to see people running over a grassy hill with muskets, but it'll be a media civil war. We're starting to see, how it's kind of turning into that now. We're seeing a civil war between ideologies. We're seeing a civil war between the way the media is, putting things out there, and how other people are shouted down when they try to bring logic to reason. And
Oh yeah,
right now,
I have literally been called a Nazi by people on the left for advocating for nonviolent solutions to the problems that we are dealing with or that we are facing. I have been attacked for days on end on social media by my quote unquote own side, right? Which really woke me up to the extremism on the left, right? Again, it doesn't have to be a huge percentage of the people, but a very small percentage can make a lot of noise,
sure.
and then of course you see that same thing reflected, on the right as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've been called I was called a communist. I was called a socialist. They were like, "Oh, I bet you worship AOC at night," and I'm like, no. Right now, I feel that we're stuck in a point where I feel like I have to choose a side, and that angers me. That pisses me off because I don't want to choose a side. There shouldn't be a side. There should be both ideas coming together to create a better solution, not just an all or nothing thing.
Exactly.
Like
What's happening on both ends. I'm, in terms of, and tell me if you agree with me on this. Is it seems that the framing of either of both sides' issues are. It's the no true Scotsman fallacy, right? Like the guys on the left are like, we're the real Americans. We're the ones who believe in, the melting pot, the not open borders, but, this idea of immigration and inflow of people from foreign countries is how this country was built. That's how it should be. That's how it should continue to be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're not a bunch of Nazis. We're not putting people in concentration camps, et cetera. So we're the true Americans. And then you got the guys over on the right who are positioning themselves as the true Americans and the only ones, the red-blooded, patriotic, gun-toting, Second Amendment waving, we're the real Americans, right? And both sides are convincing themselves. They're really riling themselves up in the echo chambers of social media, concurrently, like in a parallel effort, that they're the real Americans. And I think this is engineered. And I'm not talking about some big vast conspiracy of the Koch brothers or something. I'm talking about circumstances engineering this, which is in a way even worse than having one or two elites, twirling their little mustaches and, Dr. Evil, yeah. It's not that, yes, there are influences from those people, but to bring all of this to all of these millions of people operating the way they're operating because of a single reason, is maddening in itself, right? It's just conspiratorial type thinking. It's not that simple. We have this with the evangelicals and the religious right. We have this with the what's the identity politics folks on the left. There is identity politics on the right too, by the way. It goes both ways, but it's just called something different.
It's not as blatant though, and that I've seen though on the right. At least I haven't seen it.
Well, I think the parallel is like I said with the evangelicals. Their identity is evangelicals, so they're on the God platform, right? And they're the one true platform. That's identity politics on the right. At least as far as that's how I see it.
I'm not religious, so I don't tune into all that stuff. So
Right. And yet there are millions of people who are tuned into that. I did a whole podcast on it. 25% of America identify as evangelicals. And they and a whole chunk of those folks are very, very, very adamantly racing toward new Supreme Court justices, overturning abortion, making it completely illegal in all circumstances, no exceptions, this kind of thing. That's the identity politics of the right.
And this is the thing that totally makes me laugh about conservatives. And coming from a place where I was pretty hardcore right when I was living in California, for the longest time I was led to believe that the Republican Party and the conservatives were all about freedom and, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the American flag, Semper Fidelis, the full, the hardcore. And I truly believed it, but it wasn't until I started looking at everything, the whole wider base, both on the left and the right, that I realized that both sides, both extreme sides, say they're for freedom, but it's like, I always hear about the right saying, oh, we're for limited government, we're for individual freedom. And it's like, if I can just say something, it's like, so you're going to say that you don't want the government to tell me how many bullets I can have in this, but you're going to tell a woman what she can do with her own body. You say that you're for individual freedom, regardless of how you look at it or what your faith is. And then that's when I started kind of seeing like the house of cards fall, and started kind of just picking one. I'm like, man, you guys are hypocrites. And then, the left will do it too, with they're like, oh, we're for individual freedom, but you're going to tell me how many I can have in this. And the point being with that is that, it's like both sides don't truly believe in individual freedom. They believe in what they feel. They want to pick little parts out of their entree and just kind of discard the rest. And, so I think it was at that point where I said, you know what, man, screw this. I am not dealing with either side. I am going to be what I guess like Dave Rubin likes to call a classical liberal. Which I do believe that government has a place. I don't believe that it should control all and everything, but I do believe it has a place. But I do believe in true individual freedom, socially liberal. And, I believe in standing up for equality, not special treatment. That's the thing with, like you're saying, like identity politics. And I think that's the thing that gets under my skin about that, is that I will stand lock and step with you for equality. I will fight for your right to love who you want to love, marry who you want to marry, smoke what you want to smoke, do what you want to do, say what you want to say. That's just me. But I am not going to say that you need special treatment. And there's a difference, I feel, between equality and special treatment. I don't want special treatment because I'm brown. I don't, I just want to be treated the same, no worse, no less. And I think that that's fair.
And I think you're absolutely right. And I think you would hear, as I'm about to say, from people on the left who are not so fixated, as I mentioned, in their tunnel vision on their special interests, that they can't see the bigger picture. I think most people that I associate with and know, in fact, every single friend I have, including the members of the LGBT community, because I do know transgender people, I know bisexual, I know homosexual people on all ends of this.
They're awesome. Yeah, they're great.
And every one of them have been awesome. And every one of them would assert immediately, at least the ones I know, hey man, I don't want special treatment either. I just don't want to get denied a job, the opportunity to adopt a kid, the opportunity to, have a cake made for me. I don't want any of those opportunities that you guys have without, you don't have to think about it at all. You don't have to think about your status when you go apply for these various things. All we want is the same consideration. No more, no less, right? And that's where I think most people are at. But it gets made out on the right to be, oh, they're a bunch of special interest harpies who just want all the special treatment and they want everybody to bow down to them. And it's exaggerated. It becomes this hyperbolic positioning of what's actually being said. I can't believe that the same doesn't happen the other direction, the other flow. And the more I've been looking at, not the right-wing media, when I look at and listen to people who are on the right and what they say, that's where I see these indications, these pretty gross, blaring, obvious indications that they are being fed these lines. The same as the left are, right? The rights are a bunch of Nazis, bunch of racists, bunch of, they're all racist. And I have made that, I've definitely put that out there, right? Because I get so riled up myself.
It's hard not to.
You give it a few hours.
You have emotions.
Well, yeah, and that's what they're playing on, because you cannot separate yourself from your emotions. You just can't. There isn't this whole concept of a rational mind and the emotional side. No, man, it's all a big jumbled mess. That's what it's really like up here.
You're just not using your analytical mind. That's the problem.
Yeah, right. I'm operating too much on my reactive mind. Yes. So,
yes.
So anyway, I think that we are falling prey to this, and I feel maybe I'm more attuned to or more educated on the subject of how this kind of manipulation is done, maybe, than your average Joe. I mean, every one of these books back here and a whole bookshelf out in my living room is literally dedicated to the subject of manipulating people. I mean, this is something I definitely do know something about, right? Having been manipulated, having manipulated others, and looking at it in the broad spectrum of things, right? So when you call yourself, when I go out there and I call myself a cult expert, this is the kind of skill set I'm talking about having that makes me think that I know something about this. It's worth listening to. And I see these tools of manipulation being used on all sides. The border thing was what really blew it up in my face, because I saw the left media doing it just as much as I saw the right side media doing it. Crystal clear, because we had the actual facts of the situation, or at least more facts than were being reported on.
I have quite a number of friends that work on the border, and then I've been down there to tour and stuff, so I've seen what's going on down there, and it's crazy. It's the smuggling is a huge industry for the drug cartels. They make millions of dollars off it. So people want to attack us for our border policies. Look any place else. It's way worse. But one of the things about it that's going on down there is the reason why we have so many people coming up is because there's a lot of rumors that circulate in these areas about that if you just reach the fence, however you get through it, you will be offered asylum, room and board, medical, medical for your whole family. And then that rumor spins around. So it goes in all these little areas that they want a better life for themselves. So they are instructed by people in the United States as well. A lot of immigration activists, they're instructed to say this, this, and this, and you'll be able to get past the authorities, or at least claim asylum. And what a lot of people don't know is that Mexico and Brazil offered asylum to a lot of the caravans that were coming through, but they didn't want to take it.
And this has been going on for a long time. This problem stems from this. Here's the simplicity of it as I understand it, from having talked to you, to having talked to literally Border Patrol agents who have been on the job for over a decade. Those are the people I've been talking to about this. And what I understand the situation to be is there are simply too many people coming over for us to be able to deal with. We are a country that welcomes people from other countries for asylum purposes and refugee status. We are a country that really does try to act humanely towards anybody coming into our borders. Our law demands it. It's not because I'm making apologies for ICE or for the Border Patrol or any of that. This isn't about that. I'm talking about the big picture here. We are generally a welcoming country. And this has led to a situation where there are very ruthless people called coyotes all over
And so when people get mad at the Border Patrol or ICE for not solving this situation overnight, I can't help but just shake my head. And it's like, what do you expect them to do? You know, you have a crew of like 50 people trying to deal with 17,000. You know, there's no way.
Exactly. And that what you just said, that could be encapsulated, that could be reported on, that could be like, hey, here is a crisis situation of enormous proportions, right? But that's not how it gets talked about. Instead, you have the left deciding to frame this by talking only and exclusively about kids in cages. False memes get spread around, right? As well as the facts. There are facts to this. Yes, there are horrifying conditions that human beings are being kept in for reasons we just laid out. There is another problem here, which is that there is policy setting level at the White House where they have decided that making it broadly known internationally that you're not welcome here. This isn't what, don't come here thinking that what the coyote told you is true, because it's not true. And we're going to make it so bad that we're going to show the world how, that this is how bad it is if you come here. So don't come here. Well, that's one way of dealing with that problem. I happen to think it's a kind of a, immoral, disgusting way of dealing with it. Personally, I think we're better than that. But if we're not going to allocate the funds to it, if we're not going to organize this up properly to deal with this problem at the order of magnitude it needs to be dealt with, in other words, much larger holding facilities, much faster processing, more judges, more people, put into this situation. There's the situation. There's the real, live, objective truth of what's going on. We have just been talking about that objective truth. This is the situation. Then there's how that situation is framed and communicated to the public at large. And that is a whole different thing. And that's where my criticism of the media on all sides is really coming in, and where my temper rises as well, because it's not communicated the way we are talking about this. I haven't been able to find, and it's not like I've spent hours and hours and hours and hours deep diving on this, but when you look at what CNN, MSNBC talk about, when you look at what Fox News, let's talk about the major three. You look at how and the representation of this, Young Turks on this side, Ben, whatever, Shapiro and Dave Rubin and whatever on the other side. You have both sides taking bits and pieces of this, cherry picking what they want to talk about, and blowing it up and making it, exaggerating it into more than it's already bad. But now we're going to take these little bits, and then we're going to add this other little bit on top of it, which is the blame game. Right? Oh, the leftist said this, the leftist did that. Obama this and Obama that, and Hillary this and Hillary that, and Clinton this and Clinton that.
And Trump this and Trump that.
Well, exactly. Both ends, right? Both sides. Because Trump is, I probably shouldn't go there right now. So, because that man's ability to frame something in the worst possible way and communicate it to his mass as this red meat that he just kind of throws at them, right? I think that's kind of a whole nother level of what I would really refer to. I really don't know how else to describe it except as cult indoctrination, because it's so twisty, it's so weird, and it's so visceral. The way he communicates is meant to do nothing but provoke emotional responses. He is not trying to feed his masses with the truth of the situation to quell and calm the storm. He feeds it. But so do other politicians, right? You get AOC with those, bullshit pictures of the fence thing, for example, right? Or framing all of this in terms of kids in cages. When yes, there are children who are separated from families. It is completely unacceptable to me. It is completely That policy is disgusting to me, that is happening.
But if I am driving drunk with my son in the car, I would never do that, and also I don't have kids, and I was arrested, my son would be separated from me.
No, I get your point. I get what you're saying. Asylum seekers are not drunk drivers, so there's a little bit of a difference there. It's a nuanced problem. There are some who are criminals who use children as human shields, as protection, or traffickers. That exists. Even if only 1% of all these people who are coming over, even if just 1% of them were the bad guys, let's take it all the way down to that. That's still a lot of folks. When we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people coming over the border, we're talking about a whole lot of folks who, are doing some bad things, and they need to be sifted through, and they need to be filtered, and they need to be found. But instead, Trump presents all of these people as the criminals, rapists, bad guys, right? That's kind of how it gets framed. And there's
some of which I assume are good people.
Yeah, well, some of which I assume are good people. Like I said, and he takes it and he makes it the worst possible interpretation of, it's a framing problem. Okay, that's why I keep making a little frame with my fingers here. It's like you can take this objective situation and you can talk honestly about the complications and problems of it, which we just did a few minutes ago. Or you can blow it up into a visceral, hyperbolic presentation of calamity and criminals pouring over the border, which isn't true. Or all of these families are being separated and all these kids are in cages and this is inhumane and we have concentration camps in America, which is hyperbolic. Because it's also not an accurate framing of the situation. So I see both sides trying to use this to score political points, using this framing and messaging to do it. But what ends up, but the whole point of our talk here is that what this ends up doing is it ends up driving wedges between people like you and me.
The biggest problem here right now is the information that these migrants are getting. If they were not told that it's, all you need to do is touch the fence and huzzah, you're in America and you'll be taken in, we probably, I don't know if it's a for sure thing, I'm just speculating at this point, but maybe, if they were told, look, in order so that you don't get, locked up and have to go through trial and all this stuff, you need to go to a port of entry. You need to say, hey, I'm seeking asylum. I am in fear for my life from whatever persecution, take your pick, political, religious, whatever. And I can't imagine how frustrated the majority of the country is, because I know how frustrated I am. Because right now, I have to vote between somebody I do not agree with really much anything on, except on some social issues, or I have to, vote for somebody who is like a pompous moron but does some things that I like. So I'm torn, and I think a lot of other people are too. And my parents put it really good when they said, in 2016 we were voting against somebody. We were not voting for somebody. And they said, and that sucks. That hurts to say that, because you want to vote for somebody. You want to be like, yeah, I'm really excited to vote for this person.
That's right. And I think a lot of people on the left felt the same way about Obama. I think they felt a big letdown after, sorry, not the same way, but I think there was a big letdown on the left with Obama, because he made promises he definitely did not keep. He did some things that were completely uncool. And he did not fulfill certain promises that he promised, that things that were supposed to come off that didn't, that he could have done. I'm not talking about the economic collapse, and he inherited a mess with that, which he did, and that had to be dealt with under his administration, and it was, and growth was higher at the end than it was at the beginning. I mean, he did some good stuff. There was definitely good things done there. Like every president, he made blunders and mistakes, and I do not apologize for his blunders or mistakes. They were blunders and mistakes. Every president's going to make them. My question for you is, Do you think if we get another 4 years of this, that after that 4 years, we're going to be in a better place? Do you think we're going to be in a more united place? Do you think we're going to be in a less divided country? Because I don't. I think it's only going to get worse. And I think all this machinery that is running full speed right now, the presses, the political action committees, the special interest group, the Wall Street, the 1%, all these factors that feed into this problem are going to continue at this red hot temperature, and things are going to start melting. That's what I think. And that's why I'm concerned enough to make a podcast about this. How do you see it?
So I was thinking about, how are things going to change? What's going to happen in the next 4 years? What I see happening is, I think that one, let's say Trump does get elected in 2020. Every time he tweets something, somebody gets mad, and then we forget about it. He tweets something, somebody gets mad, and then we forget about it. I think if it happens enough, people will just be like, it's just him doing his thing. Sure, the left will get mad, somebody will get offended, somebody will be like, and get all pissed off, but then they'll forget about it and we'll go on to the next thing, the next thing, next thing. And I think that will happen until, he's out, until his term's up. Or we could see groups like Antifa say, you know what, this is it. We need to get this dude out by any means necessary. And other groups get radicalized and join with Antifa. But I don't really see that happening, because I think that, and like you said earlier, these types of really radical groups are such a very small faction. Are they the loudest? Yeah. Do they get the most attention? Absolutely. But they're just so small when you're considering, the rest of the country.
But it's not Antifa or the Nazis I'm concerned about. It's the proliferation and exaggeration of their bullhorn, of what they're saying, that gets spread to everybody and riles up the entire population, that I'm concerned about. I'm not talking about Trump's tweets raising the temperature. I'm talking about actual policies and regulations and laws being passed that are literally stripping away the things that make this country what it should be, a bastion of truth and freedom and opportunity for every citizen. I mean, we could talk for hours about the inequities of sex education and abortion and all that in the Bible Belt. I think everybody pretty much understands that case already. And yet you have this proliferation of ignorance going on with these folks. And when they are given more and more power and more opportunity, they take it, and they're not going to give it back easily. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, that I see sort of developing steam, and that kind of thing quickly becomes a bit of a snowball effect, to mix metaphors here, because once it gets going and the inertia is overcome and it's really rolling, boom, 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 boom. It's kind of like you see right now. Conversely, you see a lot of states passing marijuana legalization, and it's that thing is going, and we're all like, fuck yeah, absolutely. Because that's individual rights. That is solving the drug problem in some ways. There's a number of reasons why that's a good thing to be happening. Also, and most importantly, medicinally, it is very, very important, because there's all kinds of research being opened up now on that front.
I think that, and this was a video that I was listening to. I think the Republican Party is on their last legs. That's why they're pulling all the stops. That's why they're coming out with this crazy rhetoric. That's why they're saying all this stuff, and that's why they're because you remember when Trump first got elected, a lot of Republicans were not in line with them. They were like, they were stepping away from him
until they somehow got the memo. Paul Ryan was anti-Trump. Ted Cruz was anti-Trump. Marco Rubio. I mean, none of those guys liked him. And Lindsey Graham. And now Lindsey Graham is the poster boy for Trump. I mean, it's scary how much this party has morphed over the last couple of years.
And it's because they see the Republican Party dying. The Republican Party will die. I
That
would
is an
put money
interesting
on that.
thing. That is very interesting.
I do believe that probably in the next 50 years, maybe even a lot sooner. I'm giving 50 years to be super liberal, but if I'm going to take a conservative guesstimate, I would say that in 20 years we will never see a Republican president again. Because as time goes on, as these people that are growing up in a more liberal, progressive society, more, socially liberal as well, they're not going to be so quick to vote for somebody that's up there, with a Bible going, da, 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 saying that, marriage should only be between a man and a woman, or that, women should not have the ability to choose, whatever they want to do with their own bodies. Those types of ideologies are going to be snubbed as time goes on. And the only way that that could be switched around is if suddenly the country reverts back to a 1945, vision of what America is. And also uh, as time goes on, more and more people are going to come into this country that, are from other ethnicities, other parts of the world, that have different social fabrics, that have different policies in their heads. And whites are going to be the minority at some point. And so I do see that, I think the Republican Party's dying. And so they're pulling out all the stops. They're, hitting all the red buttons. They're trying to do whatever they can, which is why Donald Trump is out there saying, like, when he was all like, these people want to destroy the country. They're pulling out. They're doing this. 9/11 was orchestrated by Oma, So, um, they're trying to get the American people to say, you need to vote against the enemy. These people are basically Al Qaeda. I don't like those four people. I have no love for them, but they're not Al Qaeda.
Well,
But
and that's the point, right? Is we should be able to disagree on policy points without this extreme labeling of you're a Nazi, you're a this, you're that, you're Al Qaeda now. I mean, Jesus
but also
Christ,
we're in election.
man.
But we're in the election year, and that's why everything's been turned up, high tempo.
Well,
Because
it seems to me it's been turned up high tempo ever since the last election cycle. Is what I've been observing. And I just feel like that temperature is just I think it's been on a steady rise, and it's been exhausting the hell out of people. I know people, and I know that there are people out there who are just mentally, emotionally wrung out because of, all the bzzz that goes on every single morning. Hey, look, guys, y'all need to chill the hell out, man, because we're all Americans. We're here. We were born here. That makes us Americans. We need to, when we're not even agreeing on that, I think that is setting the stage more than anything for your, when you were wondering earlier about civil war. And I'm not saying there's going to be civil war next year or something. I'm not trying to be some doomsayer here. I'm not making any predictions like that. I'm talking about, emotions here. I'm talking about emotional boiling points and being pushed in this direction. And I think we are being pushed. And I think that, you could have a perfectly wonderful dog. You could have this is a really bad analogy, but you could have a perfectly normal, happy, fun-loving dog, and you keep poking it with a stick. And you keep poking it with a stick, and you keep poking it with a stick, and eventually that dog is not going to be a nice dog anymore. It's going to become very vicious, and it's going to become very mean, and you're going to be like, but it was so nice before, and we could get along so great, and everything was wonderful, but you keep poking him. And we keep poking each other, and we keep getting poked. And I don't think we realize that that's what's happening. I think that's kind of the problem and this border thing I wanted to use as an example, because here's an objective truth situation we both know about. We've talked about it now, but the framing of it, how it's being communicated, very different from what the actual truth is. And so it riles up everybody, right? So I think that continues unless we do something to stop it.
I don't see how.
Yeah.
I don't see how because it's like, I feel like the whole political realm right now is like it's like a pachinko machine. Trump tweets, they react. they say something about Trump, he reacts, and doing, 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 it on it goes. And I know this would be super hard to do this, but the way you defeat Trump is you don't pay attention to him, because Trump is being a narcissist, thrives attention, and he loves it when they react. That's why he said that. That's when he was all like, "Go back to your country," and then that's when they lost their minds. Oh, what? And then he was like, ah, and
you're right. You are absolutely right about that. And I have fallen for that trap every time. I am horribly bad at that trap. You nailed it, and you got me on that one.
Tim Pool came out with a whole episode about that, and he said that Trump, he's all like, what did he say? He's like, the squad fell for Trump's trap. And, and this was one thing that I think that he knows how people will react to what he says. And I think he knows that one way, and whether this is his way of like winning the election or whatever, or trying to get, what he's trying to do is he's trying to make the Democratic Party look like a bunch of super social justice warrior, offended, lose their minds at every little thing. And it's pretty easy to do that. All you have to do is, tweet something that is racist, or that is rude or misogynistic or whatever. And, and to where most people that don't really follow this stuff are just like, meh, what's new? But if you're front and center on the political stage, I guess they feel that they kind of have to react to it. And so I don't think there's any way to stop that. As long as he's got a cell phone, man, he's going to keep on flaming the fire.
And I'm not suggesting that we're even able to do that. I'm not suggesting, oh, well, let's pass some laws, right? Let's shut some people up. I'm thinking the only way to deal with this is to deal with it head on by actually looking for and exposing truth, and maybe if, well, it's a pipe dream, I suppose, maybe if we could be a little less partisan, a little bit better critical thinkers, that, I always have to fall back to the things that I've always pushed on my channel, because it's the only thing that's brought me back to sanity when I start going over the edge. And I've gone over the edge plenty of times, because this stuff is quite infuriating. And as you just mentioned, infuriating on purpose, which I find objectionable at a very, very core level. I mean, surely you could agree with me that it is not the president's job to do that.
No, it's not the president's job to be a troll.
No, it's not. This is a man who does not deserve to be in that office because of the things he's doing with it. I actually don't even care anymore what party the person comes from, because I see plenty of problems with the Dems as well as with the right. What I want, and what I think we all need to be looking for, is the person who's actually going to seek to unite America again, not divide it. This conquest, this divide and conquer strategy is ultimately destructive to our country. And when our leadership approaches their job that way, I think that's cancerous to our entire system.
How do we unite? I agree. But how do we unite a country that, and of course we have people in the middle, but there's a lot of issues that people are pretty firm on, and that are key issues that for voters, they don't want to budge on them because it's everything to them. Whether it be, let's say, religion, let's say, free healthcare, free college, guns. I mean, these are key issues that make somebody a single issue voter sometimes. So
I'm not sure, and maybe it's too late. I have myself, I've certainly had plenty of what I'll call a crisis of faith in our country, in our system. I've had to examine this pretty hard a few times. And I don't know if it's ever going to be reversible or not. I guess I just feel like if I don't say something, I'm not doing my part to at least say something with the platform that I have. And maybe if we can just, maybe it's just a ripple effect. Maybe it's just dropping a couple little pebbles in the pool and hoping that they ripple out and somebody else joins in, and maybe somebody else joins in. I don't know how else to approach this. You know, I don't
The
think
media,
one individual is going to solve this. I don't think one individual is causing all of this. You know, I think this is a number of factors, like I said, and the only way I know how to deal with it is raise awareness, educate, and encourage critical thinking on every part of this.
well, the media is definitely, doing a dire try to divide us.
Yeah.
I
No,
feel like
I
it's
get it.
debate.
I get it. I think the name calling, I think the labeling, you know, this was something I was talking about very early on in my channel. Labeling shuts down critical thinking. You know, they're called thought stopping cliches for a reason. It's because it stops your thinking. You don't have to think anymore because I got a label, I got a cliche. You know, we're making America great again. You know, great, wonderful, awesome. You know,
Well, no,
but
the other thing on there that they do is they tell everyone that every single person who voted for Trump is a member of the Ku Klux Klan. And admittedly, I voted for Donald Trump, but I'm not a member of the Ku Klux Klan. I'm not even racist, and it's just that they need to, the more you attack, here's how you turn a Trump voter, or not turn, but here's how you get them to think to your side and have a conversation with you. You stop calling them Nazis, you stop calling them racist, and you ask them, why did you vote for Donald Trump? I'm curious. Don't assume that you already know why they voted for Donald Trump, because I'm pretty sure that over 1 million people didn't vote for them because they couldn't wait to go to a book burning fire. And it's this whole just thinking that somebody. I wouldn't say that if everyone that had Bernie won the nomination, I wouldn't say that everyone that voted for Bernie wants a socialist country. I would ask them, like, oh, what are your thoughts on Bernie? Why did you vote for him? I'd be curious. But the way the media has pitted us against each other, it's so hard to do these days because we feel that we already know who this person is before even knowing who they are, because we've been told that this person is Y or this person is Z. And it's, I don't know how to stop that, because I feel like I'm one person trying to stop a freight train, as like you are. But
well, all we can do is encourage communication, openness, honesty, patience, tolerance, understanding, and it all starts with recognition. I really believe this. I think that this is the thing that has been lost. I really think we have all, on all sides, we have lost sight of the fact that we are all Americans, all of us, and we all deserve to be called Americans, and we all deserve the respect that comes with that we want to give to one another about that. And I think the second thing is exactly what you just said, is being open to hearing what the other person is saying, rather than dumping all these thought-stopping cliches and assumptions on them. And that goes both ways. That is, I'm talking to everybody here. So yeah, I think that's where we're pretty much going to wrap this up, because I think that's really how it comes down to. It's hard work on all of our parts, and recognizing we all have something to do with it, and maybe if we all do a little bit, maybe it'll add up to a lot. And I have nothing else to say.